Let's talk about how to stop living in fear. Now, on the weight loss journey, you're likely going to have to face a lot of fears. I certainly had to face my share as I went along. Things like my fear of the scale and, just everyday fears that I didn't even realize were kind of controlling my life, but that were really contributing to a lot of stress eating and just making my life smaller in general. And I want to say up front, even though I'm making this YouTube video, that does not mean I never feel fear anymore. In fact, I still feel fear quite frequently. And what I learned, because I was really frustrated with myself. I thought, I've been trying to really get over my fears and move past fear, but yet I still feel the fear. And what I learned by just researching this is that everyone feels fear. It's basically impossible to just stop the feeling from occurring, but it's really what you do with it afterwards. Do you let it stop you from living your life the way you want it to, or do you move past it? And so my metric for success is not do I feel the fear or not, but do I just go ahead and do the thing anyway? But it does get kind of tricky because I'm the type of person, I really believe we should listen to our instincts, that you should listen to your gut. And the thing is, you kind of think, well, why shouldn't I listen to that? That fear that I have, maybe it's telling me something important. And the book, The Gift of Fear, has been really helpful to me. It's by Gavin DeBecker. And what he explains is that there's two kinds of fear. One is the true fear. That's the gift that you have, that gut instinct in a life or death situation. That instinct will keep you alive. It will tell you what to do, and you should absolutely listen to it. On the other hand, there's manufactured fear, and that's like when you're laying in bed at night and you're just staring up at the ceiling and thinking about all the what ifs, like what if this happens, what if that happens, and what will I do if this? And that is the fear that can really affect your life and that you should try to overcome. But the question is, how do you do that, right? So here's what has helped me. The first thing is facts are friends. Just figuring out the facts of a situation. Now, for me, I really enjoy looking at actual statistics. If I'm worried about germs, I look at the mortality rate of a disease. Or if it's something like crime, I look at the actual crime statistics and see, how likely is it that I would be a victim of one of these horrible things that's on the news? In the past, I really would let myself get worked up over, things that I heard about on the news or just hearsay, something that somebody said they heard on the news. But what really helped me was to realize the news has an angle. They want you to sit there and be glued to the television, afraid of the world, so that you'll watch more of their ads that come on during their ad breaks. That's how they make their money. So, and the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, that's their motto. So then just knowing that, okay, they have a perspective and they want you to be afraid. And in Gavin DeBecker's book, he points out that the news actually makes you less safe because it puts you in this state. If you're constantly watching it, you're in this state of constantly being afraid of, a lot of times it's just manufactured type fear. And so then when you're actually in a dangerous situation, you don't even realize the difference because you're just always afraid. So it actually helps if you're not stressing yourself out all the time. And instead you pay attention to what's happening in reality around you. And just knowing the facts can give you a tremendous sense of peace. But if you're like me, even knowing the facts, you will likely fixate kind of on that, well, there is a small chance that this could happen or this bad scenario could come into play. And now this is where it's going to seem counterintuitive, but it's really helped me. And that's actually to really delve into the worst case scenario. My mistake in the past was my brain automatically always goes to the worst case scenario. But then I would try to stop it and say, well, that's never going to happen. And then what would happen in my brain would be like, I would think, well, but there is a small chance. And I would just kind of worry and worry and worry. But instead, what I've found is more helpful is to really go into the worst case scenario and try to go all the way through it. So in other words, I'll give you an example. One thing that I worried about for a very long time was that my husband would get into a car accident. It would be a fatal car accident. on his way to work. And so that meant, like every day he went to work, I was, just really worried all day that was going to happen. Now, one thing that really did help was to actually look at the statistics to see, what is the likelihood that you will be involved in a fatal car accident. But going even past that and asking myself, well, if that happened, like that would be terrible. But what would that be like? And what am I really afraid of happening past that? And just kind of going into that scenario, sometimes what it uncovers is that there is an action that I need to take. Like, for example, like making sure life insurance is in place so that if that ever did happen, okay, like I don't at least have to worry about the financial side of things if we were ever in that horrible kind of situation. And other times it can just be kind of a wake up call, like, the reason why I'm so afraid of that is because maybe I feel like we haven't really done the things I want to do in life. Like we haven't traveled as much as I want to travel, and then taking action based on that. And really what I have found in so many cases of fear is that when it comes back down to it, it's usually a fear of death, which makes sense. We are human beings and we are trying to survive on this planet, right? So it's not surprising that that's kind of where it all ends back up usually. And one thing I try to remind myself as a Christian is, well, if I die or if he dies, we're going to a better place, right? So like there's really nothing to worry about on that front. Now, sometimes you might actually be afraid of a more of a physical thing. It's not so much worry and manufactured fear, but there's just like something that you're afraid of. Like, for example, I was afraid of butterflies. And I know that sounds weird, but I was. And it started out as like a fear of big moths. And then it kind of became little moths. And then it became, also big butterflies and then small butterflies. And then it was just like basically anything that flapped its little wings around. And what I realized with that type of fear is I could never think myself out of it. And that was a mistake I was making for a long time. I just tried to rationalize, like, I shouldn't be afraid of this. I shouldn't be afraid. They can't hurt me. They can't hurt me. And what actually helped me to move past that fear was to go to a butterfly house and just sit there and let the butterflies land all over me. And when I did that, when I took that step towards fear, then my fear went away. And it took me a while of just sitting in there. And I was really afraid at first, and the fear lessened and lessened and lessened. And now I've made a habit. Whenever I see a butterfly outside, I try to move towards it instead of moving away. And what I've found is anytime I have a fear, if I will, instead of just letting the fear control me, if I'll actually take steps to face the fear and to step into that discomfort, my life gets bigger. It expands. In my world, when I let fear control it, it gets smaller and smaller and life gets less and less enjoyable. So I hope that if you are dealing with any kind of fear, that this video has helped you to have some techniques to try. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.